This little guy needs no introduction. It's Snoopy. He's the star of the Peanuts comic strip along with Charlie Brown. And that comic strip is, needless to say, a huge phenomenon and has been for a very long time. It was introduced in 1950, the comic strip by Charles Schulz, 7 newspapers originally, but almost immediately started to take off and build. In the early 1960s, when the strip was taken up by college students especially, it established the strip as something beyond something funny that was about kids and maybe even for kids. Really helped establish Peanuts as something that was intellectual, theological even, and philosophical, and really helped establish it as something beyond the norm, really something for everybody. Strongly established characters, many themes, and a minimalist approach that somehow embraced everything universal. By 1965, when the very famous and still to this day extremely popular TV special Charlie Brown Christmas premiered on CBS, the Peanuts comic strip was an absolute phenomenon. And that led to Snoopy especially becoming one of the most merchandised characters of all time, probably only behind Mickey Mouse and Winnie the Pooh. And when at that time Snoopy took on the persona of the World War I flying ace as he's dressed here, Snoopy was at the epicenter of this white-hot popularity. So it came as no surprise, really, that the toy-making giant Mattel established a license for the Peanuts characters at that time. One of the very first Mattel toys under their license with Peanuts is this great Snoopy in the Music Box. And if you've seen my video about the TV show Off to See the Wizard, you know already that Mattel had a whole line of these really beautifully produced Jack-in-the-Boxes. There was Porky Pig, Casper the Friendly Ghost, Flipper, Dr. Dolittle. A whole slew of characters were celebrated in this form, and Snoopy was no exception. As always, these great graphics on each side, featuring Snoopy with one of the other Peanuts characters here, Schroeder. Really wonderful how the other characters were celebrated, but Snoopy was always present. And then, of course, here he is. That is not Woodstock. Woodstock hadn't been introduced yet into the strip, so it's this sort of generic bird that Mattel created. You wouldn't find a bird like this in the Peanuts comic strip, but he's great anyhow. And on top, the wonderful Mattel logo with Maddie Mattel. It's supposed to play How Much Is That Doggy in the Window, but it doesn't work anymore. We'll get Snoopy out and take a look at him. There he is, popping up for us. And as always with these Mattel Jack-in-the-Boxes, the figure itself is really so wonderful. It's almost like a puppet, and he's so well designed. Now, for anyone who's collecting these Snoopy in the Music Boxes, oftentimes you will find that his ears are gone, this ribbon is gone, that's supposed to represent his collar, or the paint's been rubbed off. But this one I'm very lucky to have because he's in really pretty good shape. He's a little dusty, but that's okay. And he looks wonderful. And it's just the most delightful representation of the character. But another thing that makes this very collectible is that I was very lucky to get the box that the Jack-in-the-Box came in. These cardboard boxes that the music boxes came in, so that they could be displayed on the toy store shelves, are really very rare because, as you can imagine, once they were taken out of this box, the cardboard box was thrown away. But the box itself has a wonderful collectability to it, and it kind of makes the whole thing complete. Has some fun graphics, and of course, we love to see the Mattel logo. Now, one of Mattel's specialties was talking toys, because in 1960 they introduced a toy that was revolutionary in the toy industry, which was Chatty Cathy. And it was amazing to everyone that you could pull a string And Chatty Cathy would talk. She would say maybe 8 different things, and you never knew what she was going to say next. So that audio technology was applied to all kinds of different playthings, not just dolls. One of the most unique and creative uses of the sound technology was the See and Say Talking Storybook, which in this case is called Speak Up, Charlie Brown, with really wonderful Peanuts graphics, colors. And we can open it up. You put this thing here. You pulled the string, which is gone, and you could hear Charlie Brown say, "I told that silly dog to get me a shovel." So any page you turn to, you just turn it to the arrow, pull the string. Violet is saying, "The kindergarten teacher says he's one of her best pupils." This is a fun one. "Tell Mom I think my stomach is broken. Poor Linus is not feeling well." Lucy's as a nurse. Snoopy's kind of a doctor. And Snoopy appears in all of these examples. Here he is, of course, as the World War I flying ace, as he is on the cover. And sometimes he's just in the background here, but all of these are just delightful. And the audio recordings that were used use the same voices as you heard in the Peanuts TV specials. So it made it great. Here's on the back, a See and Say Talking Storybook by Mattel. And how great is this? On the spine, we have the characters in the pumpkin patch waiting for the great pumpkin. This talking storybook was released in 1967. The TV special, It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, was released in 1966. So that really made the Great Pumpkin, which had already been introduced in the strip, really super popular. So they were very clever to do that and capitalize on the popularity of the TV specials. It's also interesting to note that on the Mattel products, the characters really resemble very closely the way they are portrayed in the TV specials as opposed to the comic strip. And by that I mean in the comic strip, Snoopy's ears are always drawn with a white highlight around them. But in the TV specials, they're just pure black. And the same with Lucy's hair. To me, it's more like a version of the animated versions of the characters as opposed to the way Schulz actually drew them in the strip. The animated characters were a wonderful reflection of those, but they made some changes to make them more animatable. But it doesn't matter because either way, they look absolutely great. So as I mentioned, the book was released in 1967, and the very next year, in 1968, Mattel put out these Skididdlers. And this is Lucy. This is mint in the box. It's never been opened. And I'm showing you her first because she's being displayed as you're meant to see her. The little walker apparatus is still attached, and this is meant to be quite the wonderful display. So when you would see her in the toy store, you would see her beautifully displayed in the box. So you have all these wonderful graphics. This box is absolutely incredible. It says, "I walk. Watch me move along. Lucy, Skididdler," from the famous Peanuts cartoon strip. The Mattel logo. It's really fun how Snoopy's represented up here. Some fun graphics. And then on the back, some directions here. When you push me along, hold the back of the walker, and then you can even try it. Reach in back of the box, twirl the wheels to see me go. So it doesn't work very well anymore, but when this was brand new, you could do that and see her move her arms and her legs. And these wonderful graphics kind of display that action in cartoon form. So Lucy was just one of the Peanuts characters. Obviously, there would be Snoopy, and that's what this figure is. This is a Skididdler, missing his walker in the back. And the same idea, except that the figure has fallen off the walker, so he's just lying there in the box. But you can see how great he is. He has his red scarf, very wonderfully displayed. And since Snoopy appeared on Lucy's box, here's Lucy on Snoopy's box, which is a really fun match, I think. The third character is Charlie Brown. All of these were released in 1968. And here we have Charlie Brown, but who's this? Lucy and Snoopy up here. So now we see all three represented. I really like the way the characters match up like that in the graphics. So just like with the Snoopy figure, Charlie Brown has fallen off the walker, so instead of being nicely displayed, he's lying in the box there. But this has never been opened. It's factory sealed. And another thing you might have noticed about these figures is that Mattel, of course, manufactured Barbie, and certainly at that time, the costumes or clothing, the accessories that were created for Barbie were always so well done. And so Mattel were the master at creating these little outfits. So Lucy has this wonderful lace collar. Charlie Brown's famous zigzag pattern on his woven sweater is sewn on. These were all made by hand. Really incredible. On this Snoopy figure, you can see his helmet is actually in leather, has the goggles in that they push down over his eyes, the tiny little snap here to hold on his aviation helmet. It's incredible, the quality and the detail. These Skididdlers must have been very popular because in 1969 they added a fourth character, Linus. And one reason we know that Linus was introduced in 1969 is because that's the year that the Mattel logo changed. Poor Matty Mattel was retired, and this very late 60s stylization of the logo was made, and that's the logo that's used to this day. This box is in really great shape, and even the back here hasn't been pushed down too much, so it's pretty pristine. It's really incredible. And Linus is yet another figure that's fallen off the walker, so he's not being displayed very well, but he does have his blanket there. You can't see it. And this little red shirt that he has on is all woven and has tiny little buttons on the back. Just like the other figures, his clothing, it's just incredible to look at. So if we take another look at the back of the original three, there they are, displayed, so you would know how many you could get and look for them at your toy store. And with the addition of Linus, he's here too. And just in case you're wondering, this back of the box also shows that the Skididdler toys included Disney characters because Mattel had a Disney license as well. So Goofy, Donald Duck, Mickey all appeared in this form as Walt Disney Skididdler toys by Mattel. Peanut Skididdler toys, see them all. Really wonderful enticement for the child, the parent, and now the collector to get all of these. So the Skididdlers are really wows. There were other Mattel toys created for the Peanuts license besides the ones you see here, but these really show the care and creativity that Mattel put into the Peanuts toys. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Please remember to like and subscribe, and be with us next time when Otis B. Driftwood, Rufus T. Firefly, J. Cheever Loophole will all be here for a roast of Captain Jeffrey Spaulding. See you then.